Let's see how well you've taken my words to heart. Do you love drawing yet, designer?
Sir, I'm working on it, sir.
Your creative existence depends on it. You better learn to love analog as much as you do digital.
Otherwise, you know better than a process-lazy, pull-down menu loving, online logo whoring, clip art wrangling, low-class excuse for a creative person. Is that what you are, designer? Sir, no, sir. Then prove me wrong, designer, and show me what you got. Sir, yes, sir.
Hi, welcome to Glitchka Studios. Usually when I do tutorials online, there are images and text. You look at the images, read through the text, and you discern the process from that. Well, I've never done that in video form, so I'm going to take you through a recent personal illustration project from concept sketch all the way to final, just so you can kind of get an understanding of how I work and how you could possibly work. This is my pencil sketch. I was watching the movie Fargo, and Steve Buscemi's forehead inspired me, believe it or not, and I started drawing this. It's just a simple little pencil drawing, and I drew half of it. It's symmetric. I'm going to flip it, scan it in, so that's where it started, right there, a pencil sketch. From that point, I sketched this, well scanned in the sketch in Photoshop, cloned it together, welded it together, I should say, and when I looked at it, I said, you know what? He'd look cool with the third eye. So I added the third eye, scanned it back in, and came up with this and printed it out. Now this is all one sheet. I'll draw from this now. Now the reason why I do this, why don't you just build from this? Well, if you look at it closely, it gives me a good idea overall of form and how my artwork is going to appear, but it's not precise enough to know exactly one sheet. This now. Well, does the point go here or here? I want to map that out beforehand so it leaves little overall form and artwork is. Now at this point, I bring vellum in. And on top of this rougher sketch, I'll draw what I call a refined sketch. And this is working out my form exactly how I want to build it in vector, and it's pretty much all systematic with the exception of obviously the hair on top and the eyebrows right there. That's that. This is the genre and style that I'll be working in. I love this kind of shading where it's this tiger tooth effect, and so this is my stylistic reference of another illustration I did that I'm going to carry through on this one, but even push it a little further in terms of this kind of shading. This is my core base vector shapes in black and white, and I print this out at this point and I scrutinize it. I art direct myself essentially, and it's always good to art direct yourself because it leaves less opportunity for a client to art direct it and read into it more than what they really should. So I really scrutinize it at this point. I print it out and I realize it's not dark enough under his cheeks, it's too light, so I'm going to fix that. And the other little details that I just mark up on this printout, and using this as my guide, I go back to my vector file and refine those. I print it out again, and after I do that, I still notice that it still needs some work, so it's a continuing process of refinement. I print it out again, and bing, I have my base vector shapes. Now I can start exploring in color. And so I never think about color until this stage. I'm only concerned about its shape and form at this point, and now that I have that locked in, I can now play with my color. Here's a color exploration. Now, I was looking at this guy and going, okay, is he a mutant? Is he an alien hybrid? Is he a monster? What is he? Well, the fun part is I don't know. It can be whatever you want it to be. But the fact is, he does have 3 eyes, so I felt that it was warranted not to color him flesh tone. So I decided on green and gold for pupils, and this is where I began moving forward on exploring different color options. At this point, I set them up 4 up on one page, and I print it out. And this is what I'll use with the pencil to start figuring out my shading. You know, how can the shading work on this? Where's the primary light source? And I kind of had that in mind before I started building this, but this helps me to explore how I'm going to render that out in vector form. And this shows actual pencil shading that I did on this. Actually, the first one. I printed out 4, but I hit it the first time, so that's good. So that gives me my shading. This shows a larger blow up of my drawing. I'll use that now, scan it back in. I drew it at 50%, but I'll blow it up 200%, place it into my vector program, and use this as my guide to build my vector shapes. And after I do that, I end up with this. So you can see the illustration is starting to breathe some life and dimension into it with the shading added, and that's good. Now I'll print it out again. My process is both digital and analog. I go back and forth from digital back to analog, figure out what I call my deep shadows here. These are the secondary shadows that are darker than the primary shadows, and my highlights, and that's what I'm doing here, highlight and shadow. I then scan this in once again, and I'm going to build that in vector form. And I get to this stage. So you really see it starting to come to life now, and all these highlights and shadows. But it's at this point that I feel the hair is too flat and black. I need to bring some life into that, so I add this highlighting in. And that really pops. So you really pop starting to come right now, and all lights and shite. And at this point, as I move forward, I decide, you know what? I take an old printout, as you can see, because of the highlight of the hair, and I use a Sharpie, and I go, maybe pointed teeth. I'm like, that's too predictable, too monstery now. You know, I don't like that. So I'm going to toss that. I'm not going to use that. I'm not going to worry about it. I want him to be kind of normal, just freakish, and 3 eyes and green skin is enough. Here's another one with a beard, and, you know, is he a monster? Is he Colonel Sanders from Mars? Not bad. Here's another one where I'm looking at it again, this after a couple days actually, and thinking, you know, I need to bring some secondary lighting sources into his hair. The hair on the sides of the head is still too flat. So that's what I did. It really brings it to life. I really like this now. I'm going, okay, this is coming together really good. And so I set it aside and come back to it a few hours later and decide I'm going to put some minor gradients into the hot areas of this illustration. And you can see those here. Now to appreciate these, you can't really see them that well on video. So just refer to the images in the book and you can take a closer look at that. And this is the final art print where I nested it with the nice halftone burst in the background. And after sitting on this for a few days, I come back actually today and I'm looking at it and I'm going, you know what? He's freakish because he has 3 eyes, he has green skin. He's strange enough just with that. I don't like the gold eyes. I think it's not needed. Frankly, I don't think it's captivating as another color. So once again, I go back and I change them to a new color. I change them to blue. And I really like this now. I think this is much stronger. I also added some nice detailing in the teeth. You can't really see that on video. Look at the book. And this leads to my final art print right here, and that's how we go from a momentary moment of inspiration to final piece of artwork. Thank you for watching.